2017 Jaguars. Longtime car and driver readers might remember a succession of long-term Jaguars, four of them through the 2000s, that did little to dispel the stereotype of unreliable British cars. The last of these Jags born from the Ford ownership era to finish its tour of duty was a 2009 XF Supercharged sedan. Its long-term rap story began with the Seinfeldian inquiry, what is it with Jaguar and electronics? When we next took delivery of a long-term Jag, half a decade had passed, enough time for a new owner's Tata Motors to develop its first model from the ground up. That 2014 F-Type proved relatively reliable but was not without its own problems, including an infotainment system that locked up and required rebooting so often we could only presume it was running on Windows ME. But we're suckers for a pretty face, and 495 horsepower, so the orange Roadster left Eisenhower Place after 40,000 miles with a letter of recommendation and an invitation for Jaguar to send us its next creation. Home Reviews, 2017 Jaguars, Long-Term Road Test Intro. Long-Term Road Test Intro 2017 Jaguars. Please sirs, we want some more. Deck 2016 by Jeff Sabatini. Photography by Michael Samari. Shared tweet. Longtime car and driver readers might remember a succession of long-term Jaguars, four of them through the 2000s, that did little to dispel the stereotype of unreliable British cars. The last of these Jags born from the Ford ownership era to finish its tour of duty was a 2009 XF Supercharged sedan. Its long-term rap story began with the Seinfeldian inquiry, what is it with Jaguar and electronics? When we next took delivery of a long-term Jag, half a decade had passed, enough time for a new owner's Tata Motors to develop its first model from the ground up. That 2014 F-Type proved relatively reliable but was not without its own problems, including an infotainment system that locked up and required rebooting so often we could only presume it was running on Windows ME. But we're suckers for a pretty face, and 495 horsepower, so the orange Roadster left Eisenhower Place after 40,000 miles with a letter of recommendation and an invitation for Jaguar to send us its next creation. View photos. Enter this. That would be this, which, along with the redesigned XF, rides on a new modular aluminum-intensive platform called IQ. A small-entry luxury sedan, this promises to be the most accessible Jaguar in a decade, with a vast 240 horsepower model starting at under $36,000. Profligate spenders of other people's money that we are, we chose a much more expensive, passing on the entry-level turbo 4-cylinder in favor of the supercharged V6. While you can get into the 6-cylinder for as little as $42,695, we wanted all-wheel drive, $2,500, and all those sporty exterior bits that define the $7,500 R Sport trim. Running up the price of our long-termer with $6,650 of further options brought the as-tested total to $59,345. Paramount in our minds during the months to come will be the usual two questions that accompany every new Jag: does it deliver on the marque's sporting promise? And what sorts of electronic bedevilment will we have to cope with for 40,000 miles? We're off to a promising start on the former, but Biz's In Control Touch Pro infotainment system already is proving reliably unreliable. We chose the $2,700 technology package primarily to get the 10.2-inch wide discrete display, but it seems to have even more propensity to freeze than did the old infotainment unit in our F-Type. Multiple editors have experienced the problem from almost the moment the car came off the hauler, so we'll be mentioning that on our first service visit. That could be imminent, as we've already experienced the check engine warning light, although it extinguished itself after a few key cycles and a bit of driving. Drives like a Jag. Ah yes, the driving. That has been spectacular. Jaguar Land Rover's corporate 3.0-liter V6 is a familiar friend, providing 340 supercharged horsepower and thus driving all four wheels. It shot ours through the quarter-mile in just 13.4 seconds. With the Jags drive mode selector in dynamic, Throttle response is immediate and the engine whips through its rev range, with the 8-speed automatic cracking off shifts just as quickly as you can flip the flimsy plastic shift paddles. We opted to add $1,000 for the 20-inch propeller wheels wearing staggered Pirelli P0 summer tires, size 235/35 ZR20 in the front and 265/30 ZR20 in the rear. Those short sidewalls are already losing their battle with our medieval Midwestern roads, as just weeks into our test we had to replace a front tire that developed a bubble sidewall. But the big Pirellis were good enough to pull 0.93 grams on the skid pad, as well as hauled us to a stop from 70 miles per hour in 147 feet. That's a good number for a sports sedan, especially considering this is portly, 4,036-pound curb weight, 52.0% of which sits on its front axle. Prior to hitting the track, we could tell how grippy ours is by the scrubbing from its front tires that we could feel through the steering wheel during tight radius parking maneuvers. On the street, the steering has excellent feel and weight, with none of the overboosted vagueness that plagued past Jaguars. The suspension is firm yet compliant enough for long-haul mileage. It's the R-Sports standard sports seats that so far have proved to be the impetus for calling it a day and looking for a Hampton Inn, with their flatness, for lumbar support, and meager side bolstering. The front thrones are both heated and cooled, thanks to our decision to drop $2,100 on the comfort and convenience package, which also provides heated seats for the rear passengers, a power rear sunshade, and a power trunklet. Toasty hindquarters are a nice bone to throw at rear seat riders, given the tightness of their accommodations. At least 2 editors already have managed to knock their heads against the low roof opening while getting into the back seat. When so dazed, the dull interior is less disappointing, but really we have only ourselves to blame for not ordering one of the livelier two-tone leather combinations. We'd opt for the satin burl ash veneer trim, $300, but it does little to spruce up the cabin, as this nice wood all but disappears amid the vast blackness of the dashboard. Ours is far prettier on the outside, where its metallic British racing green paint, $550, looks undeniably classic. We have a lot of driving to do before we decide whether this becomes a classic itself, or perhaps just slinks off with a malfunctioning tail between its legs, another one-and-done model like last decade's X-Type. Initial impressions say that this is capable of staking a legitimate claim for Jaguar in an ever-expanding segment. This is one of 2 newcomers this year, the other being the Alfa Romeo Giulia, meaning the established players in the segment, primarily the Audi A4, BMW 3 Series, and Mercedes-Benz C-Class, plus the Cadillac ATS, Infiniti Q50, and Lexus IS, have never had so much competition. Months in fleet, 2 months current mileage, 4,629 miles average fuel economy, 23 miles per gallon fuel tank size, 16.6 gallons fuel range, 380 miles service, $0 normal wear, $0 repair, $0 damage and destruction, $266.